On behalf of Group 3, I will be introducing our topic today. So we will discuss strategic, system and cost advantages in hospitality and tourism. A strategic system explains how a company organizes its activities to reduce costs, improve efficiency, and gain competitive advantage. In tourism and hospitality industry, managing costs properly is very important because businesses compete based on price, quality, and service. Company strategic system. The company strategic system connects all parts of an organization such as marketing, logistics, operations, and human resources. It ensures that all departments work together to support the company's overall strategy. Each company designs its CSS differently depending on its target market and competitive strategy. Strategic system concept explains how a strategic system works in broader perspective. It shows how businesses coordinate with other organizations in the industry. For example, in tourism, airlines, hotels, and car rental companies must coordinate to serve travelers efficiently. To better understand this concept, we will look at the case of Ryanair, one of the most successful low-cost airlines in Europe. First, a strategic system. A strategic system is also known as the value chain. It includes all activities involved in designing services, producing and delivering services, marketing and distribution. Its main goal is to reduce operation cost, improve coordination, achieve efficiency through economies of scale. In simple terms, it is how a company organizes its operations to perform better than competitors. The second one is the company strategic system. A company strategic system connects all departments, such as marketing, operations, and human resources. To support the company's overall strategies, each company configures its system differently depending on its target market and value proposition. The third one is case example. Ryanair is a low-cost airline founded in 1985 in Dublin. It focuses on minimizing costs and maximizing efficiency. Key strategies: uses secondary airport to lower fees, offers no frills service, no free meals, uses online direct booking, high seat density to increase revenue. Because of this strategy, Ryanair became one of the Europe's largest airlines. The fourth one is business model. Ryanair targets price-sensitive passengers. Instead of focusing luxury and comfort, it prioritizes affordable ticket prices. This helps them attract more customers to one's budget-friendly travel. The fifth one is market possession. Ryanair is one of the leading low-cost airlines in Europe. Its strong cost control strategy allows it to compete successfully in the airline industry. Last but not the least, limitation. Despite its success, Ryanair has limitations. Limited services, less comfort compared to full-service airlines focused mainly within Europe. In conclusion, a strategic system helps hospitality and tourism businesses reduce costs and improve efficiency. The case of Ryanair shows that having a clear and well-organized system can lead to a strong competitive advantage even with a low-cost business model.
Hello everyone, my name is Nico Lagpin, and now I'm going to report the role of the strategic cost in the strategic system. Strategic costs are the economic costs of coming from individual economics that plays an essential role in the design of firm and the strategic system. Strategic costs play key role in the strategic system by aligning expenses with long-term business goals to enhance competitive advantage. Or the strategic cost refers to expenses deliberately managed to support a company overall strategy, distinguishing between those on strengthened market position and those do not. So in a strategic system encompassing planning resources, allocation, and execution processes, that costs are analyzed to prioritize investments that drive sustainable growth. Primary role, they enable firms to reduce non-essential costs while potentially increasing spending in areas that bolster differentiation of efficiency such as innovation or customer experience. This integration ensures cost decisions inform broader or strategic position rather than short-term savings alone. And what are case benefits of this? So it is improves resource allocation by focusing on high value activities tied to objectives enhance decision making through driver analysis like structural and executional factors and supports the ability as a strategies involved and costs are raised accordingly. Research in the industrial economics has put into perspective various factors that play a key role in the scope of activities of companies such as hospitality and tourism industry. The scale of economies for minimum and optimal efficiency scale. Economies of scale happen when unit cost decrease a business size increases larger hotels, airlines, and restaurant chains, lower costs through bulk purchasing and advertising, and centralized systems. The minimum of efficient scale is the lowest point on the long average cost curve where a firm can produce goods at the minimum possible unit cost. It is present the smallest scale of output necessary to exploit all economies of scale, making a point where productive efficiency and what key aspect of MES. The optimal production of MES is represents output level where the firm has achieved the minimum efficient size, often characterized by the end of significant economies of scale. Market structure impact, cost efficient, graphical representation, factors affecting industry type, manufacturing and electric power, and baking often have high MAS due to high fixed costs. Technology advancements can shift by MAS point of changing how much a firm needs to produce to be competitive and understanding minimum efficient scale. And the example of that is the Holiday Inn reduced advertising costs per hotel through large network operation. The strategic system and cost advantages. Strategic cost management and the strategic systems together drive to a competitive advantages by optimizing costs across the value of chain while boosting efficiency and agility. And the key advantages of these are lower costs without sacrificing quality and enhanced profitability, market and share entry barriers, downturn resilience, and resource allocation to value-adding areas. The strategic systems amplify this through digital tools from real-time operations, data-driven decisions, and rapid adoption and across the department collaboration. And the main techniques of this activity-based costing targets non-value activities. First is target costing, cuts design stage expenses, and second is value chains analysis and spot waste. Sources. Common sources include purchasing, bulk buying, technical specialized machinery, managerial specialized staff, and financial cheaper credit. And this economies of scale when a company grows to a larger efficiency for communication and biographic complexity and causes average cost to rise instead of fall. So example of that is include a massive retail chains like Walmart using bulk buying to reduce unit cost of or a software companies were producing additional unit cost on almost nothing. The learning curve concept learning curve is a principle states that as experience increases the time and cost to complete a task decrease. Introduced by Boston Consulting Group in 1968 and developed by Bruce Henderson Experience Law. The key concept when cumulative and output doubles unit cost decreases by a constant percentage, usually 10 to 30%. An example, an 80% learning curve means cost time per unit drops by 20% when production doubles to a steeper curve and faster cost reduction and a stronger competitive advantage and apply a strong in labor intensive operations, hotels, airlines, rest, and use in yield management to adjust price based on demand. Hotel chains benefit more due to acknowledge sharing across properties. Scope economies and firm design. Economies of scope occur when a company produces a wider variety of goods or the services together at a lower cost than producing them separately. Joining production, design, and distribution reduce overall costs and improve efficiency. And the key concept is that producing complementary goods and services lowers long-run averages and the marginal cost. Cost savings come from sharing resources, processes, and assets across multiple products or as services, economies of scope in hospitality and tourism, often linked and run with equity, allowing companies to expand product or services offerings at lower cost.
Good day everyone, I am Carol Nimandiak and today I will discuss economies of scope and strategic alliances in the airline industry. So this explains how companies reduce costs
expand their services, and become more competitive in the global market. So first, let us understand what economies of scope means. So economies of scope happen when a company offers multiple related services and uses shared resources to reduce overall costs. So instead of focusing on only one product or service, the company offers several related services at the same time. There are four levels of economies of scope. First is product level. At the product level, a company offers multiple related services. So for example, airlines offer economy class and business class using the same airplane. So because they use the same aircraft, crew, and airport facilities, they reduce operational costs. So simply offering more related services lower costs. And second, the market level. At the market level, the company serves different types of customers. So, for example, airlines serve both business travelers and leisure travelers. In the hotel industry, companies like Marriott International and Accor operate luxury, mid-scale, and budget brands under one company. So, even though they target different customers, they share marketing, operations, and distribution systems. So, this reduces cost and increase efficiency. Third is geographic level. At the geographic level, companies operate in multiple locations using the same system. So for example, Days Inn operates in different places but follows the same business model and standards. So because of this, they reduce management and operational costs. So operating in many locations using one system helps lower costs. And last is competence level. So at the competence level, companies use shared skills and knowledge across services. So they apply their experience, management skills, and expertise in different areas. So this shared knowledge creates competitive advantage. Now, why is economies of scope important? So because it gives companies strategic advantage. So it helps companies reduce costs, offer more services, compete more effectively, and make it difficult for new competitors to enter the market. So economies of scope strengthen the company's position in the industry. Next, let us talk about airline alliances. After airline deregulation in 1992, competition increased. To survive and grow, airlines started forming alliances. And alliances is when airlines cooperate while remaining independent companies. So they share resources, coordinate operations, and expand their route networks. The common features of airline alliances. Airline alliances usually include code sharing, coordinate flight schedules, joint pricing, shared frequent flyer programs, and joint marketing. So even though they cooperate, they remain separate companies. And the benefits of alliances, the benefits include lower operational costs, access to wider markets, increased revenues, and stronger competitive positions. So alliances help airlines compete globally without merging. One example of major airline alliance is Star Alliance. So Star Alliance was formed in 1997. It started with 5 airlines and later expanded to 28 members. So it is known as the Airline Network for Earth. So why was Star Alliance formed? There are several motivations behind this alliance. First, economies of scale. Airlines reduce costs through joint sourcing, shared marketing, corporate deals, and stronger negotiation with suppliers. So by buying together and sharing resources, they reduce expenses. Next is increased revenues. The alliance helped attract passengers from partner airlines, expand route networks, and improve aircraft utilization. Because passengers can travel to more destinations through partner airlines, ticket sales increase. And third is joint sourcing. Airlines purchase supplies and services together, which reduces supplier costs. And lastly, price collusion. Another motivation mentioned is price collusion. So, price collusion means airlines coordinate pricing strategies, especially in joint ventures. Instead of competing aggressively on price, they align pricing to avoid price wars and maintain stable profits. This coordination helps protect their earnings while cooperating on certain routes.
Good day, everyone. So I am Maria Joy Grace Patay, and today I will be discussing the important concept and strategic management that influence decision making in the hospitality and tourism industry. So this include transaction cost, sunk cost and predatory cost, network economies, switching cost, and agency cost. So this concept help explain how businesses compete, expand, and maintain control in the industry. So we have transaction cost. So transaction costs are the cost of conducting business exchanges with external parties like suppliers, contributors, and franchises. So these costs are not about conducting goods or services, but about managing relationships and agreements with other businesses. So type of transaction cost, we have opportunity cost. So this refers to the cost of choosing one option over another. So for example, if a hotel chooses supplier A instead of supplier B, the benefits they could have gotten from supplier B becomes the opportunity cost. Second, we have contract costs. So these are expenses related to negotiating and drafting agreements. So for example, legal fees and time spent in meeting to finalize contract. So we have transaction costs. So transaction costs are the cost of conducting business exchanges with external parties like suppliers, distributors, and franchises. So these costs are not about conducting goods or services, but about managing relationships and agreements with other businesses. So we have type of transaction costs. So first we have opportunity costs, choosing the best option and allocating resources efficiently. So this refers to the cost of choosing one option over another. So for example, if a hotel chooses supplier A instead of supplier B, so the benefit they could have gotten from supplier B becomes the opportunity cost. Next, contract costs, so negotiating and drafting agreements. So these are expenses related to negotiating and drafting agreements. So for example, legal fees and time spent in meetings to finalize contract. Next, monitoring costs, so overseeing quality and compliance. So these are costs of checking if the other party follow the agreement. For example, quality inspection in franchise systems. And next, we have contract performance costs. So legal or enforcement costs if agreements fail. So this happens when agreements fails and legal enforcement is needed. For example, if a supplier violates the contract and the company files a case. And we have implementation for strategic management. So transaction costs are very important in strategic management because they influence how a company decides to structure its operation. So first, we have high transaction costs encourage vertical integration where a company controls suppliers or distributors internally. So if transaction costs are high, companies prefer vertical integration, meaning sila na mismo ang mag-control sa supplier or distributor. Why? Because if dealing with external parties is expensive and risky. So, mas maayo nga internal na lang para less monitoring and legal problems. Next, we have low transaction costs allow firms to outsource operations efficiently through suppliers, distributors, or franchises. So, if transaction costs are low, companies can outsource operations efficiently. Why? Because dealing with suppliers is not expensive or risky, so mas cost-effective ang outsourcing. Then we have transaction cost influence company boundaries, organizational structure, and the choice between markets versus administrative control. So transaction cost influence company boundaries, meaning they determine how big or small the company should be. Should the company do everything internally or should it rely on the market? So now let's proceed to the hospitality and tourism examples. So franchise systems. So face high transaction costs if franchises fails to meet quality or loyalty standards. So in franchise system, the franchisor allows franchises to use their brand and business model. However, if the franchisee fails to follow quality standards, the franchisor will spend more on monitoring and inspection. Example, if a hotel franchise does not allow cleanliness standards, the brand reputation may be damaged. So the company must conduct inspection, train employees, enforce standards. So these are monitoring cost and contract performance cost. So therefore, franchise system can have high transaction costs if franchises do not maintain loyalty and quality. So next, we have restaurant may internalize tasks to reduce cost from supplier mistakes. So Some restaurants choose to internalize certain tasks like meat cutting instead of buying from suppliers. Why? Because if suppliers make mistakes like wrong cut, poor quality, or late delivery, the restaurants suffer. So, if they do it internally, more control, less monitoring of suppliers, less risk of contract problems. So, this is an example of vertical integration to reduce transaction costs. Airlines like American Airlines invested in the sober reservation system to control distribution and reduce costs with travel agents. Before, airlines depended on travel agents to sell tickets. This created transaction costs such as commission fees and monitoring issue. So American Airlines invested in the sub-reservation system to control ticket distribution, reduce dependence on travel agents, and low transaction costs. So by internalizing the reservation system, they gain more control and efficiency. So this shows how high transaction costs encourage vertical integration. Next, store operations like Thomas Cook reduced transaction costs by acquiring airlines and travel distribution networks. So, Thomas Cook reduced transaction costs by acquiring airlines and travel distribution networks. Instead of relying on external companies, they own the airline, controlled travel packages, and manage distribution channels. Because of this, less contract negotiation, less monitoring of partners, and more operational efficiency. So this is another example of vertical integration to reduce transaction costs. So let's proceed to sunk cost and predatory costs. So sunk cost and predatory costs are concepts related to market entry and competition. So this explains why some industries are difficult to enter and why established companies have advantage over new competitors. Market entry costs are expenses that new entrants must incur to compete, including investment that cannot be recovered if the venture fails. So, market entry costs are expenses that new companies must spend in order to compete in an industry. These include equipment, buildings, marketing, technology, and licenses. So, some of these costs are sunk costs, meaning once the money is spent, dili na siya mabawi if the business fails. For example, if a company builds a hotel and it fails, the investment and the branding and promotion cannot be fully recovered. Next, high entry costs create barriers to entry and protect established firms, giving them a competitive advantage. So when entry costs are very high, it creates barriers to entry. So barrier to entry means lisod para sa new competitors mo enter sa market. Because of this, existing firms are protected, competition becomes limited, and established firms gain competitive advantage. So, strategically, high entry costs protect big companies from new competitors. Let's proceed to the K concept. So, first we have contestable market. So, occurs when there are no barriers to entry, no sunk cost, and new entrants can compete on equal firm. So, a contestable market is a market where there are no barriers to entry and exit, meaning no sunk cost, easy to enter, easy to leave, and new entrants can compete equally. So, in this type of market, companies cannot charge very high prices because new competitors can easily enter. But in reality, most industries are not perfectly contestable because there are sunk costs. So next, we have sunk costs. So a recoverable investment in advertising, infrastructure, or brand development can be predatory if used to determine new competitors. So sunk costs are investment that cannot be recovered once spent. Example, advertising campaigns, infrastructure, brand development, and specialized equipment. Why is this important? Because if a new company enters and fails, they lose all that money. Established companies may also use high sunk costs strategically. For example, if a company invests heavily in branding, it signals strength and discourages new competitors. So, this can become predatory if used to scare or block new entrants. Next, learning by doing. So, incumbents benefit from experience. So, reducing cost compared to new entrants. So, learning by doing means that companies become more efficient as they gain experience over time. So, established firms already know the market, have trained employees, and have efficient system. If new entrants still learning, higher operational costs, and more mistakes. So, incumbents have cost advantage because of experience. Example, cruise industry. So, access to startup capital. Ships are extremely costly, around $200,000 to $700,000 per passenger capacity. So, cruise ship cost billions of dollars. This is a very high sunk cost because once the ship is built, the investment cannot easily recovered if the company fails. So, for new entrants, they need huge capital, very risky investment, and if they fail, they lose billions. So, because of this, only large and financially strong companies can enter the industry. So, this creates a strong barrier to entry. Next, operational skills. So, large fleets lower per passenger cost. New entrants face disadvantages. So, big cruise companies like Carnival operates many ships. Because they have many ships, they can spread operational costs, they buy supplies in bulk, they maximize occupancy rates. So this is called economies of scale. So new entrants only have one or few ships, higher cost per passenger, and cannot compete with lower prices. So large companies have cost advantage. Next, we have sales and marketing skills. So, established companies spread marketing costs across many passenger and control distribution networks. So, big cross companies advertise globally, partner with travel agencies, and have strong brand recognition. Because they serve millions of passengers, the market cost per passenger becomes smaller. So, some new companies must spend heavily on marketing, no strong brand yet, and higher marketing cost per customer. So, established firms are more efficient in sales and marketing. Next, monopoly pricing power. Oligopoly allows predatory pricing. So the cruise industry is controlled by only a few large companies. This is called an oligopoly. Because there are few competitors, big companies have pricing power. They can lower prices temporarily to push out new entrants. So this is called predatory pricing. For example, if a new cruise company enters, big firms may lower tickets prices aggressively. Since new entrants have higher costs, they cannot survive long. So this discourages competition. And next, we have shipyards that limited access to shipbuilding facilities hinders new entrants. So there are only a few shipyards in the world that can build large cruise ships. So these shipyards have limited production capacity, often prioritize existing big clients. So new entrants must wait years for ship construction, face delays, and cannot expand quickly. So this is another barrier to entry. So in the cruise industry, high startup capital, economies of skills, strong marketing networks, pricing power, and limited shipyard access create strong barriers to entry. So these high sunk costs protect established companies and make it very difficult for new competitors to survive. So let's proceed to the concept of network economies. So network economies occur when the value of a product or service increases as more people use it. So this is also called the network effect, meaning the more user or participant in the network, the more useful and valuable the service becomes. For example, if only few people use an airline route, limited ang destinations. But if many passengers use the airline, mas daghang routes and connections. So, mas valuable siya. So, why companies benefit from networks? So, economies companies benefit because they share resources across many users, they have access to large markets, they reduce cost per customer, and they attract more partners and customers. So, as the network grows, the company becomes stronger and more competitive. Example, airline hub and spoke system. In the airline industry, companies use a hub and spoke system. This means local airports send passengers to a central hub before flying to long-distance destination. So instead of flying direct routes everywhere, airlines concentrate flight in one major airport. Airlines like Northwest invested in hubs and luggage sorting system to gain network economies, securing captive customers. So, Northwest Airlines invested heavily in hub airports and advanced luggage sorting system to strengthen its network. Because of this, more connecting routes become available, more passengers use the system, and the airline secured captive customers, meaning customers depended on their network. So, as the network expanded, the airline gained network economies. So, benefits: access to more customers and markets. So, when the airlines has many routes, it can serve more cities, it attracts more passengers, customer prefer airlines with more option. So, the network becomes more attractive as it grows. Next, operational efficiencies and cost savings. So, because flights are centralized, aircraft utilization improves, staff and resources are concentrated in hubs, and cost per passenger decreases. So this creates competitive advantage, drawbacks of network economies. So increased complexity for travelers because passenger connects through hubs, more flight transfer, high risk of delays, possible misconnection, risk of lost luggage. So while efficient for the airline, it can be inconvenient for travelers. Higher airports management costs since many flights land and take off in hubs, so airport congestion increases, more staff needed, and higher operational and maintenance costs. So network economies also create management challenges. So how switching costs work? If switching is easy, meaning no penalty, no loss benefits, and no inconvenience, switching costs are low, but if customers lose benefits when they change suppliers, so they lose reward point, they lose membership privileges, and they lose discount. Switching costs are high. The higher the switching cost, the more loyal the customer become. So why it is important in strategic management? So switching costs help companies retain customers, reduce competition, increase long-term profit, and create customer dependency. Example in hospitality. Hotels and airlines offer loyalty programs, reward points, free upgrades, and exclusive service. So, if customer transfer to another brand, mawala ilang benefits. So, they prefer to stay. So, this is a strategic way to maintain competitive advantage. Agency costs. So, agency costs arise in the relationship between owners and managers. So, the owners are called principals and the manager are employees are called agents. So the problem happens when managers do not fully act in the best interest of the owners. So why agency costs happen? First, diffuse ownership or weak supervision. So if a company has many shareholders, no single owner closely monitors management. Manager may have more freedom. If supervision is weak, managers may make decisions that benefit themselves. Second, conflict goals. So, owners usually want higher profit, cost control, and strong returns. So, manager may focus on business expansion, job security, higher salaries, and better working conditions. So, their goals may not always match. So, what happens because of this? To solve this conflict, companies spend money on monitoring system, performance evaluation, audit, and incentive programs. So all of these are called agency costs. So they are necessarily expenses to make sure manager act in the best interest of owners. So switching costs help companies maintain customer loyalty and reduce competition. Meanwhile, agency costs arise from conflict between owners and manager and require monitoring and control system. Both concepts are important in strategic management because they influence profitability, control, and long-term business success.
Hello everyone, I am Danica Campbell and I am going to explain the complexity cost. So complexity costs are the extra expenses a company has when it runs many products. services, or location at the same time. As a business becomes bigger and more complicated, it needs more system, staff, and coordination, so which increases the cost. So these costs appear in planning, production, and service delivery. So the causes of the complexity costs are: first is the coordination cost. So it managing many operation at once requires more staff and system. So next is the compromise cost. So this means that the business spend more trying to satisfy different customer needs. Next is the inflexibility cost. So large companies struggle to adjust during slow demand. Next is the bureaucracy and duplication. So too many departments may repeat the same work, wasting time and money. Next is the external complexity. So that means laws, permits, and cultural differences add extra cost. Next is the examples in the hospitality and tourism. So hotel chains with many branches, airlines with many routes, cruise companies operating internally, and resorts offering many services all face complexity costs. So the more services and locations they manage, the higher their operating expenses. So in short, bigger and more complex businesses cost more to manage. Next, dynamic of cost development in the airline industry. After the regulation, airlines had to compete more freely, so they focused on lowering costs and improving efficiency to survive. Airlines use scale economies by operating large networks and full flights to reduce cost per passenger. They use scope economies by sharing staff, system, and branding across many routes. They also reduce agency and transaction costs through better contracts and incentives, because airlines invest huge money in aircraft and airports. So these sunk costs make it hard to new competitors to enter. Large airlines protect their market through hub system. To stay competitive, airlines form mergers and alliances like Star Alliance to expand networks and cut costs. So in short, airlines survive by growing bigger, sharing resources, and forming partnerships to manage high costs. Next, cost dynamics and low-cost provider. Airlines manage costs based on their business models. Some focus on full services, and while others focus on low prices. Full services airlines like American Airlines spend more on comfort, schedules, and onboard services, which makes travel better and more expensive. Next is the low-cost airlines like Southwest Airlines, Ryanair, and EasyJet save money through simple booking, less advertising, and fast boarding and standard aircraft. So this allows cheaper tickets. However, low-cost models works best for short regional flights. Expanding too fast can fail like People Express. So in tourism, companies lower costs through scale economies, like serving more customers, and scope economies, like offering many services together. Good system design helps businesses balance cost and efficiency. Next, cost dynamics in the airline industry. After deregulation, airlines manage different costs to stay competitive. The diagram shows the main cost areas and how airlines respond to them. Information cost, money spent on reservation system, networks, and customers and food, reduced by using strong computer system and shared networks. Scale economies, saving cost by carrying more passengers and using hubs efficiently. Bigger networks, lower cost passenger. Scope economies, using the same resources for multiple services like staff, planes, systems, and brand reputation. Agency cost, cost from managing customers and travel agent controlled with loyalty, programs, incentives, and clear pricing. Transaction cost, cost of contracts and partnerships, reduced by alliance, mergers, and agency agreement. In summary, airlines cut costs by sharing system, expanding networks, forming alliance, using tech, and managing partners, helping them survive in a competitive market. Market and geographic scope economies plus other costs. Businesses save money by serving many customers and locations, but bigger operations also add cost. Market scope economies, it means serving different customers types with the same resources. Example, a hotel offers budget, family, and luxurious room using the same staff and building. Geographic scope economies means operating efficiently in multiple locations. Example, a hotel chain keep the same brand and service style across cities. Transaction cost, cost of dealing with partners, contracts, and coordination. Complexity cost, extra costs from managing many products, markets, and location. In short, scope and expansion save money, but bigger size and more partners increase the complexity and transaction cost. Balance is key. Next is the keywords. First keywords is strategic cost. Costs that businesses plan carefully to gain advantage over competitors. These include investments in system, technology, branding, and expansion to improve long-term performance. Next is the economies of scale. when producing more lowers to the cost per unit. Bigger operations spread cost over many customers, making services cheaper. Next is the economies of scope, saving money by offering many products or services using the same resources. One system supports multiple services. Next is the transaction cost of finding, negotiating, and managing businesses, partners, or suppliers. This includes contract, coordination, and communication. Lastly, is the complexity cost, extra cost by running a large and complicated businesses with many products, markets, and location. In short, in tourism, hospitality, and airlines, businesses manage cost carefully to stay competitive. They use scale and scope economies to serve more customers and offer multiple services efficiently. Strategic investment in system, technology, and branding give long-term advantage. However, expanding markets, location, and services increases the complexity and transaction cost, which must be balanced to remain efficient. Different business models, like full services versus low-cost airlines, show how cost strategies affect operations and customers' experience. Overall, effective cost management is key to success in a competitive and dynamic industry.